Hello, hello. What's up? My name is James McCool. I'm the owner of PayDirtDFS.com, and we're going to be doing a NFL Saturday stream. We do this every week, talking through the NFL main slate and answering questions about NFL DFS in general. Just kind of riffing about things. Going to be going over today specifically. We're going to be going over the NFL main slate. We're going to be talking through each and every game, talking about over/unders, talking about Vegas stuff, talking about stacks. Talking about all the cool stuff, and then we are also going to be talking a little bit about leverage. We're going to be talking a little bit about the LevX metric that I have over on the site and the models. I have LevX for every single sport and every single model that I run. So it's worth talking into. Ooh, that's tasty. A little bit. So we're going to be talking a little bit more in depth about that. I've gotten some questions on how to better use it. So we're going to talk about that. And then we're going to go over some stacks. We're going to go over some individual players, where the leverage is good, where the leverage is bad, where ownership should be, where ownership is not deserved, etc., etc., etc. As I always say, if you are not a subscriber over at PayDirtDFS.com, then you should go subscribe over at the site. The site is good. I mean, over here. Yeah, that one. Yeah. There are a couple free tools that you can use over there: air yard search, rushing search. But mostly, the models. I have models for every single sport. I'm going to have projections for NHL this year as well as the regular rankings and everything like that. So, yeah, should be, going into another good year. Baseball is pretty much over. We're still running models for it through the playoffs, but we're pretty much not worrying so much about baseball at this point. We have moved on to greener pastures and softer action, so definitely focusing mostly on NFL right now. But, all of that to be said, welcome to the stream. Glad to have you. Let's start talking about some things. So, what we do every single week is we are going to start with Vegas info, right? So, the Vegas info that I use is over at fantasylabs.com. They have a really good, easy-to-use Vegas tab. So, we're going to start there. We're going to sort things by live over-unders. So, at the top, we have this Bills and Chiefs game, which is not on the slate, but I think that it's still worth talking about because it's a really exciting game. The Bills are 3-point underdogs here, which I think is actually interesting. The Bills have been a better team in terms of pass efficiency, and I understand that they have not faced, world beaters, but they have been a very, very pass-efficient team, meaning that on offense they have significantly more passing yards than they have allowed on defense. So that's a pretty important metric when you're thinking about who should be favored in a game. Kansas City is at home, so typically home field advantage for the Chiefs is one of the better stadiums in the league. It's usually 4 or 5 points, so having it only be 3 points here is pretty important. This game should be treated as a pick'em. I think the Bills actually win it. I am worried about the Chiefs. I think the Chiefs' defense is just fucking horrific. I don't necessarily think that Jalen Hurts is all that good, and he shredded them last week with no offensive line. So I am worried about what Josh Allen is able to do to them. But I digress. Highest total on the week by a long shot. Started at 57, dropped down to 56.5. Only 38% of the bets on the under, so that dropping down certainly matters. 65% of the bets are on the Bills to cover that 3, but it has not moved at all. 3 is a pretty significant number, though, so I wouldn't expect it to move from 3 unless we see some serious action, in which case I think that it drops considerably in favor of the Bills. The Rams and the Seahawks was the second highest total, 53.5. That game was kind of a bummer, but mostly due to injuries. Rams came out on top. That was to be expected. Rams are a better team. And then we have the Giants and the Cowboys. Now, the Giants are 7-point underdogs here. Opened up as 7.5-point underdogs, but have dropped down to 7 with only 29% of the bets on them. I actually expect that to drop even farther. I think that it's probably going to go to 6 or 6.5. And the reason for that is because the Giants, when I was talking about that pass efficiency metric, the Giants are a team that is better than the Cowboys are in that regard. I'll pull up the models right now so I can kind of show that. Let's see. Results. I should have had this up in the first place. I am not very good at this. So yeah, this is the pass efficiency metric that I was talking about. But the Giants right here, I mean, they are facing a Dallas team that has given up so many passing yards against. The most in the league by a long shot. And like they're 7-point underdogs here where they probably shouldn't be. So I think that you could probably take Dallas here, or I mean, you could probably take the Giants here at least to cover 7. I think they cover 7. And I think the market is going to end up agreeing with me there. I'll bet that line closes 6.5, maybe 6. But it does have the highest over-under on the slate, like legitimately on the slate, at 52. It started at 49.5, has been bet up 2.5 points. Majority of the bets are on the over, though. So, it's a public bet, but that is the highest over-under on the slate. Next is the Green Bay Packers versus the Cincinnati Bengals. This game has also gone up 2.5 points from open. Started at 48.5, has jumped up to 51. 63% of bets on the over. Again, another public bet. Green Bay is apparently only a 3-point favorite here, which is really weird. I don't think that Green Bay should only be a 3-point favorite here. I know that they're on the road. I know that the Bengals have been a pretty good team this year, and they have shown that they are willing to play to certain game scripts and adjust things on the fly, which I think is important. I think this Bengals team is good, but I think the Packers are a significantly better team. So 3 points, kind of weird. 6-7% of bets, though, are on Green Bay, and it is sitting at 3. So I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe the Packers are not that much better of a team, and I just have some biases there. I might. It is what it is. If we go over and we consult, we consult the pass efficiency. They're not actually that significantly better. When we look at it, it's only a 92-point difference, or 92-yard difference, rather. So 3 points probably makes sense. I guess I have some biases that I need to work through. Going down to the next one. So that game was a 51 total. We're dropping down under 50 here now. This game started at 49, has been bet up to 49.5. We've got the Lions at the Vikings. 59% of the bets on the over, so public bet over. I think this game might close at 49. I don't think it closes at 50. I think that people are probably going to sour a little bit on the over on this game, probably be hitting the under. That being said, the Vikings are 10.5-point favorites, just massive favorites here, over a Lions team that actually has not been the worst in the league. All things considered, this game is pretty even when we think about pass efficiency. So I really like the Lions to cover this, cover 10.5. That's pretty surprising that they have dropped that far. I guess it's all the injuries, right? Like TJ Hawkinson and DeAndre Swift are both injured or both questionable. So I think that if they play, this game should be closer than 10.5 for sure, and I'd prefer to take them to cover. But from DFS standpoint, I mean, this game should have some pretty good things to exploit, just kind of depending on who is going to play and what happens with TJ Hawkinson, what happens with DeAndre Swift. There's going to be some upside from either side on this game for sure. It's also obviously a really good spot for Dalvin Cook or for Alexander Mattison if Dalvin Cook ends up not playing, which I think he will. Like, he's pretty dead set on playing through this injury, which is dumb, but I digress. Dropping down, we have the Titans and the Jaguars. This game started at 48, has been bet up to 49. 53% of the bets on the over, so it's pretty split. 87% of the bets are on the Titans to cover 3.5 or 4.5. That's a lot on them to cover. Granted, they are the significantly better team in terms of pass efficiency, and the Jaguars are just, they're in a pickle, man. Urban Meyer seems like a weirdo, and I mean, like, most of the smart people in the DFS industry have been wondering if Urban Meyer was an absolute idiot from the start. And I think that, like, so many things have happened now where it's just like, yeah, he's totally an idiot, and like, smart people will write about this. So I don't know, man. The Titans without Julio Jones are basically the Titans from last year. So 4.5 points over this Jaguars team, I think, is just about right. And the pass efficiency model agrees with that. So From a DFS standpoint, everybody's going to be on Derrick Henry. Some are going to be close. Like, Derrick Henry, I would be surprised if he wasn't the highest owned player on this slate. I already said in the Discord that, like, even though he's going to be the highest owned player on the slate, I still think I might use him and just get different elsewhere just because, like, the Jaguars are such a fucking mess. It's really, really hard to justify not using him. But we'll see what tomorrow brings. We'll see how builds work out. Like, when I go over and I look in the running back ranges, there are still quite a few mid-range running backs that make a lot of sense. Chuba Hubbard, and if Joe Mixon plays, Joe Mixon's in a great spot. Leonard Fournette is underpriced. Like, there are a lot of these running backs that I think are worthwhile when Derrick Henry is going to be so high owned that I don't know if you need to go up that high. Yeah, Justin, I know. It is an understatement. But, like, I don't watch college football, so, like, I don't know the guy like that, you know? I don't know that he is an actual weirdo. I just kind of, like, from the conversations and from taking Travis Etienne, or however the hell you pronounce that name, like, taking him in the first round and, like, the usage of James Robinson in week one, it's such a damning indictment of Urban Meyer as a coach. And then, like, the most recent video coming out of him being a weirdo in real life, like, yeah, it's just, whatever. Flamingo emojis, I guess. Dropping down to the next game, we have San Francisco and the Cardinals. This game opened at 53.5 and has dropped 5 points to 48.5. 52% of bets on the over, so this is split. This drop has got to be associated with Jimmy Garoppolo being injured and going to Trey Lance. And, the numbers kind of back that up. Like, San Francisco has gone down 3 points in their total, and they have gone down from 4.5 to 5.5 on the spread. Look, like, it's kind of the same thing. Like, everybody was talking about when, who was it? Justin Fields. Justin Fields ended up being announced that he was starting over Andy Dalton. And, like, everybody's like, oh, man, this is so good for the Bears. So good for the Bears. And Vegas is like, not really, though. Like, we're not going to move the line at all. We're literally not going to move the line at all. We're going to say that Justin Fields is just as bad as Andy Dalton. And I said on stream, it was like, you just, like, listen to Vegas in this situation. Don't listen to your touts. Don't listen to, like, the popular sites. Don't listen to that kind of stuff. Listen to Vegas. And what Vegas is telling us here is that Trey Lance is not an upgrade over Jimmy Garoppolo. Not right now, at least. Like, we can assume that he is going to be very inefficient, very inaccurate, and not be as good of a game manager. And Kyle Shanahan has worked with game managers for years. So I think that, like, when you look at this, people can be excited about Trey Lance. And, I mean, I guess, what do I have him projected for? I'm projected pretty badly. I have him projected for a median of, like, 9 fantasy points, something like that, which is below Davis Mills. It's below Jared Goff. It's below Jacoby Brissett. Like, Trey Lance just kind of looks like maybe he's not the wave. I'm probably going to move that projection up a little bit as we continue to, like, look at things, but it's just not, it's not good when Vegas says, oh, Trey Lance is starting. Okay, the over-under in this game needs to drop almost a touchdown. So just be wary of that. This game does have some fantasy upside. Like, George Kittle is out. So that's going to open up quite a bit. Ross Dwelly is probably going to end up, like, relatively popular as the backup for George Kittle. I think Brandon Ayuk probably ends up getting quite a bit more work here. Eli Mitchell is back, so Trey Sermon is going to be sparse, maybe. I don't know. Like, all of it, like, there should be quite a bit of spread here. But I think that Brandon Ayuk is probably the biggest beneficiary here. Him and George Kittle run kind of like the same intermediate stuff. So Brandon Ayuk looks pretty good. And then for the Cardinals, AJ Green has looked fantastic. I think that you can kind of, like, you can use him until he is priced effectively. He's still only 5,100. He's still probably not expensive enough. And DeAndre Hopkins is still too expensive. So, but the problem with this offense now with the Cardinals is that they have so many good wide receivers. It's not like it's just DeAndre Hopkins and then, like, Christian Kirk sometimes and then scrubs. Like, it's so spread out now that it's really actually hard to stack the Cardinals, I think. I've been using AJ Green, and he's been fine, but projections don't really like him, and this over-under has gotten kind of low. So I don't know. It's an interesting spot. I do kind of like the Cardinals. I think they project okay, but that's mostly just because Kyler Murray projects so well. Outside of Kyler Murray, it's really not all that good. So I don't know if I love this game. No Kittle hurts more than just receiving. He's a great blocker. Absolutely. Yep, and that's kind of like the Rob Gronkowski thing too, right? What do you think of Tony at 4K? He led wide receiver in elusive rating this week. I don't know what the elusive rating is. Explain that to me, and then I'll tell you if I think I like him. And I'll tell you if I think the elusive rating is something worth looking at. Going into this next game, Miami and Tampa Bay. This game actually looks pretty cool. I have Tampa Bay as top overall stack. I have Miami not as a top overall rated stack, but I think that you can bring back from Miami pretty well just because they are a very, very high passing team. When we look at the pass splits, Miami is actually the highest adjusted pass percentage in the league through the first 4 weeks, 75% adjusted pass rate. And then in the red zone, they kind of even out. They're middle of the road, but when you're passing that much in the middle of the field, it opens up a lot of things for these kind of deeper passes. So I do think that this game looks like one of the ones that I'm going to be focusing on the most. The over-under is 47.5. It is sitting pat. It's been split on bets mostly. Tampa Bay is a 10-point favorite with 55% of the bets, down from 10.5. Tampa Bay, what can you say? Tom Brady is probably going to break some of his own records this year. He's insanely efficient this year. His passing crew is ridiculous. The defense is bad, so he's going to have to pass more. It's just a really, really good spot for the Bucs to do well. The only question is if the Dolphins can keep up. I don't know if the Dolphins can keep up, but I think that they're going to throw to Jalen Waddle a lot. I think they're going to throw to Devontae Parker a lot. Will Fuller's back on the IR. Mike Gesicki could get worked in. There's a lot of things to like here. So this is going to be a game that I focus on quite a bit. Forcing missed tackles, Prescott Lamb with him as a bringback. So here's the thing about missed tackles, and we're gonna look in my face for this one. So I had a conversation a while back with some people that I respect when we're talking about missed tackles, and missed tackles was this big thing for running backs and trying to evaluate running backs, right? It was oh man, he breaks all these tackles and he has all these broken tackles per play and blah blah blah. And it's okay, so we have some survivorship bias here though, right? So if a running back breaks 5 tackles on any given play, right? Or any given game, he breaks 10 tackles or whatever. That also means that he was within range to be tackled that many times. Right? If you break 3 tackles on a play, it's oh man, that's cool. That looks great for the highlight reel. But that also means that you were within the vicinity of a defender close enough to have tried to tackle him that many times on one individual play. So I don't think that's elusive. That doesn't, elusive would mean that you are able to get clear of defenders and get to the open field more easily, right? And that's really what we want. We don't want running backs or wide receivers or anything like that are breaking tackles. We really don't, because that means that they have the capacity to be tackled instead of breaking the tackle. We want wide receivers that are getting way less contact against them by defenders, because that means they're in the open field more, meaning they can pick up more yards after catch, stuff like that. They're more efficient with the way they're actually receiving or with the way they're carrying the ball. So elusiveness, I don't think about elusiveness actually as a good thing. I think of it as a risk of somebody who I don't necessarily want to be taken more of, because I think they have more risk to get tackled. I think they're in the vicinity of defenders more often, which causes problems. So elusiveness, I don't think that it's really something that you should look at as an upside thing. I think that it's something that you should look at as kind of a worrisome thing, especially if you're considering somebody like Tony, right? Why would you take Tony instead of taking John Ross, for example? John Ross, he's running these deep routes. He's just as cheap. He's super cheap. He can catch those deep balls that actually lead to touchdowns, and I just think that elusiveness, if you're looking at it, it just means there's not enough separation. Does the Parker hamstring injury worry you at all? Popped up on the injury report with it just yesterday. Yes. Especially because it's late, right? If you injure your hamstring this late in a practice week, probably fucked, right? So yeah, it worries me. I mean, I liked Jalen Waddle more in the first place anyway. All it's going to do is just kind of lead me more to him. I never really considered that I was going to, I was never really going to use Miami stack and bring it back to Tampa Bay wide receivers. So I never really needed to consider two different wide receivers. So I'm mostly just on Jalen Waddle anyway, but that just makes me like Jalen Waddle more. All right, close up. You're thinking of it in terms of running back, though. He is wide receiver. It's different on how he's used. Because Ross shouldn't get the targets. He's running wind sprints all day. Is he, though? Hold on. Because, also, we don't necessarily care that much about the targets on somebody like these guys, right? So, John Ross, I have projected for a median of 8 and a ceiling of 16.9. Kadarius Toney, hold on. So, John Ross, 3,400. I have him projected for 8.2 with a ceiling of 16.9. Kadarius Toney, I have projected for 6 and a ceiling of 9.09. The ceiling is basically half of what John Ross can do. So, I think that if you're looking at those two, if you're playing DFS, or if you're playing, to win, why would you go with Toney over Ross? So, Kadarius Toney had 25% of the targets, which is fine. But he had less, him and John Ross had just about the same amount of air yards. So, I don't know. I don't think that it matters all that much. Right, but, what I'm saying with it is, even though the medians are basically the same, the upside of Ross is significantly higher. Even if Kadarius Toney catches 3 balls for 30 yards, if John Ross catches 1 for 45 and a touchdown, then John Ross outscores him by a lot, right? So, you need to get away from the idea of just medians mattering. The ceiling absolutely matters, especially on a team like the Giants, where, really the Giants like to run the ball. They're not necessarily a super pass-heavy team. So even going against Dallas, and I know that everybody's just attack Dallas, attack Dallas, attack Dallas. I get it. Even against a team like Dallas, wouldn't you want the wide receiver that has more upside? I don't know why you would want to go with the receiver that's getting more targets. Even if we look at targets individually, Kadarius Toney had 9, John Ross had 4. So 4 targets at an 8 out of 20 versus 9 targets at an 8 out of 9. I'd rather just have John Ross. I get it, but isn't that how we got burned on Mims every week last year? I don't know, man. I don't really think about the results that much. I think about the upside. So I don't really care about, if I got burned by a wide receiver. That doesn't matter to me. I got burned by Robert Woods 3 weeks in a row and then cashed in on him big in Showdown because he was still, part of the offense. The thing about it is, with NFL, we have such a small sample size that any individual outcome doesn't really matter. That's why you focus on upside, because the randomness that happens week to week to week, you can't really count on any individual thing happening over and over and over again. If we could, then Cooper Kupp should have continued to have a 36% target share or something like that, but that was never going to happen. Same, that's why you focus on John Ross, because he gets 4 targets. If he gets 4 targets at an 8 out of 20 yards, if 2 of those connect and he gets a touchdown on both of them, then he breaks the entire slate. So that's why you focus on upside. But I digress. If you would prefer to use Kadarius Toney, then feel free. Go for it. I will not talk you out of it. Why would I think that Toney is being game planned to have a larger role? Why would you think that? I suppose. What do I make of the love for Cincy +3? Is the game worth stacking? Yeah, it's probably worth stacking. I don't think it's bad. Let me go over and check the models. Yeah, Green Bay looks good. Bring it back with either Jamar Chase or T. Higgins is fine. I don't have any problem with that. I think that Cincinnati has shown that they would like to be pass heavy when they are behind. They are good at switching up the way they want to go. They would rather be run heavy. They want to be a run first team. But they showed that they are willing to go pass heavy in that game against Jacksonville, and that was really, really reassuring for their future. So I don't mind stacking it. I think, actually, I'd probably rather go with Cincinnati side and just bring it back with Devontae Adams. That's probably the way I would go. Any hoozle. Let's get back to it. The next game, we have the Browns and the Chargers. Browns and the Chargers. Let's see. Is this game on this slate? Yeah, it is. So 47 over-under, opened at 48.5. It's down 1.5 points. The Browns are 2.5-point underdogs to the Chargers. They have dropped down 1 point. Chargers have gained a point on them, but it's the public bet. I think the Chargers should be way bigger favorites than this. Probably. Let's go over and look at pass efficiency. Yeah, they should probably be bigger favorites than this. I mean, they're right there, right next to 10-point favorite Tampa Bay and 5-point favorite Arizona. Like, they should be at least 4-point favorites, I think. Especially at home against the Browns. It's really surprising they're only 2.5-point favorites. So I would definitely want them to cover that. Game should be okay for DFS. Stack Chargers, bring back OBJ. I wouldn't stack the Browns. They just don't pass enough in the red zone. So, yeah, we'll get to that later, though. The Eagles and the Panthers. So this game is a 46 over-under. It has not moved at all. Pretty even betting on either side. Panthers are 3-point favorites, opened at 4.5, and have dropped 1.5 points off of that, even with 75% of the bets. So the better bets are going on the Eagles to cover that. It's at 3. I don't think it'll move from there. It might move back up to 3.5. I don't think that it's going to move past 3, though. That's pretty important numbers. So I still don't think the Jalen Hurts is all that good. Kansas City defense made him look like a god, but I think the Kansas City defense is like really, really tragically bad. So like I'm pretty concerned about them, all things considered. But we'll see. I think Carolina's defense considerably better. And I think they probably cause some problems for Jalen Hurts here. But this game is stackable, right? Like, you can use Devontae Smith, you can use Jalen Reagor, use DJ Moore, you can use the ghost of Robbie Anderson if you feel like doing it. I probably just prefer Chuba Hubbard in this one, but we'll talk more about that when we get to actual stacks. Colts and Baltimore. This game's not on the slate, but it opened at 48, dropped down to 46, 2-point drop. The Ravens are 7-point favorites, and that's probably, like, deserved. I don't know. I'm not really sure how to feel about the Colts right now. Because, like, when we go over and look at pass efficiency, the Colts have not had many passing yards, but they really haven't allowed all that many passing yards either. So, I don't know. They're kind of a middle-of-the-road team. This game is hard to judge for me, I think. But it's not on the slate, so we don't have to worry about it. Dropping down to the next one, this Jets-Falcons game. This one is not on the slate either, but it is the showdown slate tomorrow morning. So this game should be actually a lot of fun because everyone is injured. The Jets actually are getting players back, so we'll have to pay attention to that in the morning. But it's 45 over-under. It's been bet up a little bit. Falcons are 3-point favorites, even though they are missing Calvin Ridley and Russell Gage. So they basically have no pass catchers. It's Olamide's Sicarius season. It's going to be sick. People are going to use Kyle Pitts, and I'm going to fade him. It's going to be hot. The Jets might win this game because the Falcons are just terrible. Yeah, definitely CPAT season. It's going to be fucking... that game's going to be fun. I'm going to wake up early, just watch it. Actually, not early, but I'm going to watch TV early, just watch it. Okay, next game. We have the Raiders and the Bears. 45.5 over-under. 70% of the bets on the over. It has not budged at all. Las Vegas, 5.5-point favorite. 71% of the bets on them to cover it has not budged at all. People are pretty... models are pretty pat on what this game is. They know what it is. Las Vegas, I think, should actually be a bigger favorite here. They are a better team by a pretty significant amount. I would think this game should be at least like 6.5 in their favor. But I digress. It hasn't moved that way, so we'll see where it goes. Las Vegas is in a pretty good spot here, actually. You can bring back Darnell Mooney, or you can bring it back with Allen Robinson. Like, you can kind of play this one in a couple different ways, but Las Vegas is actually in a pretty good spot here. And it's worth stacking. You can go with Darren Waller and Henry Ruggs, Darren Waller and Hunter Renfrow. You can go with Bryan Edwards, who my models always love, just because he does have a significant ADOT. They're worth stacking and bringing back with. Next, we have the Washington football team and the New Orleans Saints. 43.5 point over-under. 60% of the bets on the over. It has dropped down. 76% of the bets are on the Saints to cover 1.5. It has moved towards them a bit. Very public bet. Washington obviously lost Logan Thomas last week, and Antonio Gibson is questionable, so they have some issues going on there. It's going to be Ricky Seals-Jones season for DFS. He projects very well. They like using the tight end in the red zone. They are a team that likes to pass in the red zone as well, so that's going to be an annoying one to kind of work through, but they're probably worth playing. They're probably worth stacking. The only problem is that New Orleans, they do not want to use Alvin Kamara in the passing game, and they do not want to let Jameis Winston pass the ball. So they're basically historically rush heavy for the Saints, at least for the last past decade is concerned. They're a very, very rush heavy team, and I don't really know how to reconcile that. So I'll probably just fade this game. Now we drop into the real bad games. 39 over under for both of these games. The Patriots and the Texans. 39 over under. The Patriots are 8-point favorites against the Texans, who are just trash. Man, yeah, this is a really bad game. Especially because Davis Mills is starting. There's not even anything to really talk about here. You can use Jacoby Myers and Brandon Cooks as a secondary stack if you want, but that's where pretty much all of the scoring should come from in this game. It's just a bad game. And then the Broncos and the Steelers, 39 over under as well. The Broncos are 2-point favorites over the Steelers. Just trash games, bro. So fucking bad. I don't want anything to do with either one of these. Cortland Sutton projects well. Again, okay, so I shouldn't say I don't want anything to do with these. They both have good secondary stacks. With the Patriots, you can use a Jacoby Myers and Brandon Cooks secondary stack. And with the Broncos and the Steelers, you can use a Cortland Sutton and Deontay Johnson secondary stack. And I don't mind that. I think there's secondary stacks available for both. But, God forbid you end up actually stacking these. That would just be a terrible decision. And I talked myself into a New York Giants stack last week. And even that was I shouldn't even have done that. But I won't touch these games for actual stacks. All right. I think I'm drinking a margarita here. I don't know. That is margarita mix. Yeah, it's margarita. It's pretty tasty. Let's see. Yay, the weekly James Hurts rant. Yeah, well, I'm just not sold. I'm just not sold, bro. I'm not sold. CPAT season for sure. Jones real athletic got hyped up in Arizona. Yeah, no, I agree. And my models have loved him forever. And my models love him this week. If I go over and I look at the projections, Ricky Seals-Jones, 2,500, has a floor of 0, but a ceiling of 21.9, median of 9.7. He projects well. I can't argue with it. I really can't. And they use him in the red zone. So, and yeah, Heineke is not that bad. I actually like Heineke a lot. I used him last week. I think that he projects well for his price. 5,900. He only projects for 18.8 this week. That's because the over-under is really bad. Ceiling at 34 is pretty good, especially at the ownership. The ownership's just really low. So I don't think it's terrible. I think that if you're going to use Ricky Seals-Jones, I just don't know how you do it realistically in this slate. I'm not stacking Washington. And if I do, who do I bring it back with from the Saints? Do I bring it back with Alvin Kamara? Alvin Kamara got 0 targets last week, so I'm not really keen on doing that. I don't know. It's a really weird spot. I just don't think that I love using Tyler Heineke and this stack. So if I'm not going to do that, I'm probably not going to use Ricky Seals-Jones. I have a more apt chance of using Ross Dwelly and bring it back with AJ Green or with Christian Kirk or something like that. I don't know. It's kind of it's a weird spot. He's going to be super chalky, and he should be. He projects well. Can I get the ADOT on Seb and Arteezy, please? I don't actually know what that means, Zach. Please forgive me. Real Sharps knows Samail is the ADOT king. I don't even know who that is. I'm not a real sharp. You guys are killing me in the chat today. Just decimating me. All right, let's pull over these models. Then, sip some water. Oh, Dota, word. You guys are nerds. Video games. Fucking dweebs. Goddamn nerds. Alright. Let's jump in. First stack on the entire thing. The highest projected stack. We basically have 3 stacks that are projecting well above others. Right? So we have Tampa Bay at the top. We have Green Bay. Then we have Minnesota. So those are the 3 stacks that look like they project the best here. The algorithmic stacks are Tom Brady, Mike Evans, and Antonio Brown. For Green Bay, it's Aaron Rodgers, Devontae Adams, and Randall Cobb, which is gross. And then for Minnesota, it's Kirk Cousins, Justin Jefferson, and Adam Thielen. That one makes a lot more sense. The ownership is significantly lesser on Minnesota as a combination. And I think that you could even probably go KJ Osborne there instead of Adam Thielen, or instead of Justin Jefferson. I think that you can do either one of those things. The leverage is still going to be pretty good. The LevX on all 3 of those is higher than anything else on the slate because the ownership is not near high enough to cancel it out. So those 3 project the best. The 2, well, I guess we could name off 5 stacks kind of towards the bottom. They're all under projected of 35 fantasy points. Those 5 are going to be Miami, like I talked about. I'm not really interested in stacking Miami, but I do have interest in them as a comeback. Chicago, Justin Fields, Darnell Mooney, and Alvin Robinson. They just haven't shown it yet. New Orleans, super rush heavy. Nothing really to stack there. Houston, Davis Mills, his upside is just not, it's not there, man. All the upside that he should have was transferred into neck length. So I don't know what to do about that. But Brandon Cooks is usable. And then Detroit all the way down at the bottom. And remember that Detroit has actually been a team that can pass relatively well, but they're way at the bottom because Vegas just doesn't believe in them. They think that it's a mirage. So, that's why they project super duper bad. Also, their receiver core is just fucking tragic. So, avoiding them makes a lot of sense. In the middle, I mean, you kind of have a bunch of stacks in the middle of this 40 to 50 range. Pittsburgh is at 42, Philadelphia is at 43, Tennessee at 43, Cincinnati 45, Carolina 45, Carolina 47, Arizona 45. Those are kind of the middle stacks. You can go there, but they all kind of have warts on them, I guess. The team in that range that probably is the best is Philadelphia, which shoot me, of course. But whatever. Tampa Bay, Green Bay, and Minnesota project the best. Diggs has to explode this week. Does he have to explode this week though? Hold on. Let's go check the old air yards model and take a look at Buffalo. Buffalo has actually been kind of run heavy this year. So Stephon Diggs, 48% of the air yards, it's wild. Target percentage, 33%, yep, also wild. But and 10 targets. 10 targets week 4, 8 targets week for that, 14. Yeah, I mean Stephon Diggs week for sure, right? What's he at here in the models? That's the other question, I guess. I'd be surprised if it wasn't well. It's not all that well, is it? Where do I have Stephon Diggs projected? Oh, wait. It's not even on the main slate. Why are you asking me these questions about things that are not on the main slate? You're throwing off my groove, bro. Throwing off my groove. Killing me. Let's see. Target's been there, but damn, 1 TD and Casey is trash. Yeah, I mean, Diggs is going to crush it. I would have known if it was Faker. I would have known, just give me a League of Legends character. Actually, now that you mentioned Dota, I remember projecting him. So, you guys are killing me. Also, second Green Bay, which Cincinnati wide receiver to bring back with. It's either T. Higgins or Jamar Chase. I think that it's one or the other, right? There's not going to be a super good answer to that, I don't think. Jamar Chase projects really well, 14.2, ceiling 27. T. Higgins projects for 12 and ceiling 25. So, it's close. Probably just flip a point. Probably just flip a coin there. All right, let's jump back into things. No, I understand getting stuck on KC. That game should be a lot of fun. It should be really exciting. That is a yelling child. Let's see. Let's go into the models again. And okay, so let's break down these games a little bit. So Tampa Bay and Miami. Tampa Bay projects really, really well, right? 57. Miami does not, and most of the reason for that is just that Miami, even though they pass a lot, like Jacoby Brissett is really, really inefficient, and the wide receivers just are not that good. If I was going to do this though, it's certainly like very straightforward, cut and dry. I'm just going to be going Tom Brady. I'm going to go Mike Evans, and I'm going to go Antonio Brown, and then I'm going to bring it back to Jalen Waddle. That's it. It's easy. Easy game. Easy mode. Pretty easy to do. The ceiling of this is 125. Jalen Waddle doesn't project all that well, but he does have a ceiling of 16. He's only, 4,800. Antonio Brown's only 5,200. This stack really isn't that expensive. For 4 players, you're taking up less than half your salary for the top projected stack on the slate. It's pretty good. And it doesn't project to be super highly owned either. So I do really like that stack. I think that it makes a lot of sense. All right, going for the next one, Green Bay, they are facing Cincinnati. So I did just answer that question, right, of who I would want to bring it back with. The only question is, like, how you want to handle putting it together. So I do think that it is worthwhile to go, I mean, obviously you're starting with Aaron Rodgers and Devontae Adams. Like, plain and simple. If you're going to stack Green Bay, that's who you're going to start with. But then you have, like, some questions of where you want to go with the rest of it. I think that you can go T. Higgins. Somehow I spelled that wrong. How the fuck do you spell T. Higgins' name? I didn't spell that wrong. Oh, wait, yeah, I did. Forgot an I. Shut up. I think you can go T. Higgins. And then the question is, do you want to go Randall Cobb? Which he is 4K. He projects for 9 fantasy points, a ceiling of 21. So this has a ceiling of 128. Or do you want to go Robert Tonyan? Which I spelled wrong again. Which, 4,300, ceiling is 123, but you're taking up the tight end spot. So, like, that matters. You can also go Jamar Chase. Did I spell this right? I hope that I spelled this right. Yeah. You can also go Jamar Chase here, which his ceiling is 27, his median is 14. And then go with Randall Cobb. And that ceiling is 130, which is pretty good. That's better than going with T. Higgins, but T. Higgins is cheaper. So, I don't know. It's kind of a question. And then there's also the other side of this where you can go with Joe Burrow, which I think is fine. Since really the only thing that you want on Green Bay specifically is Devontae Adams. Then you go T. Higgins right here. And this ceiling is actually higher, right? Like, this evens out a little bit better. So I really don't mind going with a combination like this. Or I suppose that you could get off of Jamar Chase or T. Higgins and go with the tight end, or you could go with Tyler Boyd. But this is probably what I prefer more. I probably prefer stacking the Cincinnati side, mostly because the only wide receiver that I actually want from Green Bay is Devontae Adams, and the only way that Cincinnati is actually going to pass enough for you to get a ceiling out of these wide receivers is if they are chasing Green Bay, which the scoring mostly comes from Devontae Adams. So I do like stacking Cincinnati. I think that it's cheaper. I think that you get a slightly better ceiling from it, and the ownership should likely be a bit lower. People aren't going to use Joe Burrow. So that's probably my preference there. Let's see, what about Lazard? Isn't he the Ross play there? And Cobb is Tony type? Yeah, I mean, I was just speaking to this over here. Like Devontae Adams, Randall Cobb. You can certainly go with Alan Lazard. Did I spell this right? Yes, I did. So, like, if we are looking at these two, the problem is... So there you go. That answers your question. Alan Lazard only projects 5.6, Randall Cobb at 9.5. So, like, this is not a Kadarius Toney and John Ross situation because Randall Cobb actually has a higher ceiling here, 21. Alan Lazard only at 12.36. So, I mean, that answers that question. And they're both, like, basically priced the same. The difference is I think that Alan Lazard Randall Cobb actually gets red zone work. So let's go to this next one. We've got Minnesota. Minnesota is facing... Why can I not remember who they are facing? 10-point favorites over Detroit. That's right. So I don't know if I actually want to stack this game. It projects well, and I'm fine with that. But, like, I really worry about like the ability of Detroit to keep up here, especially if TJ Hawkinson is ailing and like not able to be as effective as he can be. Detroit is already a team that has so many question marks, so many bumps and bruises, and so many speed bumps. I just worry about them a lot. So I don't know if I want to stack this game. Probably just going to be looking to use Dalvin Cook or Alexander Mattison. Interestingly, if we go over to the rush tool, which we'll reload this really quick. Like, Dalvin Cook has, like, literally came out and said that he's working through an injury. Like, he's going to keep playing through this injury. And because of that, like, Alexander Mattison actually had more of the rushing attempts than Dalvin Cook did. I think that he had less red zone attempts. Yeah, but still, just like 1 to 2. I mean, I think that Alexander Mattison actually might be a better play than Dalvin Cook this week. Just seems like, I don't know, I'm worried about it. So I don't know if I actually want to even touch this game, even though it projects really well. I think I'd probably just be more focused here, Tampa Bay and Green Bay, rather than going with Minnesota. Las Vegas. Las Vegas is facing off against Chicago, and they project pretty well. They project for 50. A lot of that is coming from Derek Carr and Darren Waller, but Henry Ruggs does not project badly either. Going up against Chicago, it's actually like pretty easy, right? So we're going to go Derek Carr. We're going to go Henry Ruggs the third. We're going to go Darren Waller, who is like by far the best tight end on the slate. Already there, we have a ceiling of 92. And then we bring it back with, bring back Darnell Mooney, who had some really good looks last week. He has ceiling 22, a projection of 9. What do we have for Allen Robinson? Allen Robinson is actually lower. Man, how the mighty have fallen. So yeah, I'd probably go Darnell Mooney there. You could also, like I said, you can go Hunter Renfrow here. Hunter Renfrow has a similar ceiling to Henry Ruggs. The volume is a bit better there. You can also go Bryan Edwards. Bryan Edwards, obviously, with a much lower ceiling, but he does have a high ADOT, and he is cheaper. So my preference, of course, is going to be going with this combination, Henry Ruggs, Darren Waller, and Darnell Mooney. Just like sticking to the algorithms, sticking to what the models think are best. Let's see. Answer some questions really quick. Let's see. Similar ownership with very different upside? Yeah, absolutely. I think that when you look at Randall Cobb, like people think Randall Cobb is dust, and he's not. I mean, he's very well involved. Lazard at 3.7 seems high. He's done nothing. So yeah, he's done nothing, but he only really had 1 week to do anything, and he didn't. So like, let's see, what did he have last week? Green Bay. Robert Tonyan had 25% of the air yards. Devontae Adams 25%. Allen Lazard only 8%. Randall Cobb had more than that. And then targets. Let's see. Allen Lazard had 3. Randall Cobb had 6. Yeah, I mean, even when we're looking at things that way, like, he only had 1 week to do anything. You expect him to take the MVS role, but if he's not going to, then he's worthless, for sure. Hawkinson Q might not play. Would that put Williams in play if not into Swift, but want a cheap running back? Well, Swift might not play either. They're both questionable. So it might be straight up Williams week. I don't know. But Williams would be in play, yeah. Ruggs been getting 5+ targets every week. Huge games coming. I love Ruggs. The models always love him too. Please buy James Mooney jersey, please. When Mooney makes me money, I can buy a jersey. Mooney has done nothing but lose me money for a year. So until he makes me money, we're not buying a jersey. We're just not. I hope that on a showdown slate, I get to captain him and he ends up like paying up for everything I've lost on him. Is Robinson struggling because Nagy is a donkey, old, and can't separate, or the QB holding him back? I don't know. Both. Probably both. Justin Fields, I mean, he has not been good, but we don't know if that's because Nagy is bad, right? Like, it's kind of a question of the horse or the carriage, chicken or the egg, whatever. Well, we don't know what is the sole problem with that offense. If Nagy is able to create an offense that fits Justin Fields a bit better, then maybe Allen Robinson is going to end up being a bit better. I don't know. We'll see. But I don't think that it's worth taking bets on right now. That's what I'll say about that. All right, jumping back into things. Next game, Dallas. We have Dallas facing off against the Giants. Dallas projects better, but I want to point out that Dallas mostly just projects better because the players themselves project better, and I think that the Giants probably have similar upside. Dak Prescott, CeeDee Lamb, Amari Cooper, very obvious, very easy to do, very skinny target tree. It just makes sense. I will point out that Dalton Schultz did have a breakout game, and I think he's going to be pretty involved in the offense, at least as long as Michael Gallup is out. It makes a lot of sense that Dalton Schultz is going to end up having quite a bit of a role there. So Dalton Schultz, I'm sure that people are going to be caught on to him by now. Like, what is his projected ownership? Only 6%. I mean, at 4,400, I think he's way underpriced there. Like, way underpriced for what his role should be in that offense. So I do like Darren Schultz a lot. On the other side, with Daniel Jones, Kenny Golladay, Evan Ingram, the hard part about this game is, like, you kind of have to ask a question about what the upside is from either side, and I think that the upside actually lies with the Giants. And, like, for the price, Daniel Jones has a 6-point higher ceiling than Dak Prescott and is basically $1,000 cheaper. The only problem with that is, of course, that going with a double stack with Daniel Jones is kind of rough. The way that I would probably do it, and of course I'll have more notes on this tomorrow, but I probably want to do this with Evan Ingram and bring it back with CeeDee Lamb or Amari Cooper. I'm not quite sure yet, but this kind of looks like one of the ways that I would want to do it. The other way of doing it, of course, is going with John Ross. Oh, that's broken, is it? Son of a bitch. Hold on. Hold on here, boys and gals. Where the hell is John Ross? Not Ross Dwelly. There he is. Zach, I already know that you're going to say something, so just shut up. Because we already talked about this today. Yeah, he's already John Ross there. All right. Okay, cool. So, there we go. John Ross ceiling of 16. And then instead of CeeDee Lamb, bring it back with Dalton Schultz. And then, like, that's probably the way that I want to go about it. I suppose that because you really are, like, looking at Kenny Golladay, that's why you would be going with Dak Prescott here instead. Because then you can go with, like, this, which has, well, actually, ceiling's not a lot better. Ceiling Daniel Jones is really, really good. So, yeah, I mean, I really do like this as the way that I would stack this. Bring it back with Dalton Schultz. You could, of course, bring it back with CeeDee Lamb. I don't mind that. But, yeah, this is probably the way that I would go about it. And it's really cheap. It's under $20K to stack it like this. And I think this gives you the most upside and the lowest ownership combination for a game that people are going to be wanting to stack. That is the direction that I would want to go. Going to the next one, we have this Washington game. Like I said, I'm not stacking this game. The total is not all that enticing. There's nobody to bring it back with on New Orleans. I do like Washington. I like Tyler Heineke. I like Taylor McLaurin. I like Ricky Seals-Jones. I like Terry McLaurin and Ricky Seals-Jones as individual plays, and maybe you could talk me into using a secondary stack of Alvin Kamara and Ricky Seals-Jones, which I think would be a unique way to go about doing this game and capture a lot of the upside from both teams. You could also do Terry McLaurin and Alvin Kamara. I don't mind doing that, but I'm not stacking this game. Denver, again, I'm not stacking this game. I don't mind a secondary stack of Cortland Sutton and Deontay Johnson. That's the way that I would go about things here. Or Noah Fant and Deontay Johnson, or Noah Fant and Chase Claypool. Like, any of these guys, I don't mind doing together. And it's pretty cheap, right? Like, Cortland Sutton and Deontay Johnson. Yeah, I mean, that costs $12K as a combo, and their ceiling is really, really good. Oh, I messed this up, didn't I? All right, well, anyway, yeah, ceiling is really, really good here. We're sitting at, like, what is that, 64 points? My math's right there. I don't mind doing that, but I'm not stacking this game. Again, the total is just really, really low, and I think that a lot of the actual fantasy production is coming from just a couple players there. I suppose if you really wanted to hate yourself, you could stack Denver and go Teddy Bridgewater, Cortland Sutton, Noah Fant, and bring it back to Deontay Johnson. But like, I don't trust Ben Roethlisberger to be able to do anything on that offense. I think Pittsburgh's shot, man. I think they're done. And I'll keep saying that until they are shot and done. So next we have the Chargers. Actually, let's answer a couple questions really quick. Check up on the chat. Drink some margarita. What about Komet? He is real athletic and should be better than this? The entire offense, dude. The entire offense is just going to suck for a while. Until they figure it out. Giant stack with Schultz run back is what I'm going to run if I end up stacking that game. And I don't mind doing that. I think that's fine. When I tried Jarwin to fade Schultz, he is also real athletic. You love athletic. You said athletic like 4 times in this chat. No, I just played Schultz. Like, Schultz isn't going to be highly enough owned for me to care about the ownership on him. Doesn't matter to me. Yeah, I'm sure you're lying. I'm sure you're just dying. How do you import salary and data into Excel, and what stats do you use for formulas in the model? A lot. I scrape some sites. I have straight up data connections to some other sites. I have some imports using import. I don't remember what the formula is, but it's in Google Docs, and then I pull that into a different sheet. Like, there's a lot of different ways. And then, I mean, formulas like, look at this monster of a formula, right? Actually, this monster of a formula. Hold on. Like, look at this bitch. Thing is crazy. Crazy stuff. Crazy sauce. I do a lot. But yeah. You like font? I have no idea how to pronounce that. Ogabamnaya? I don't know. Is out on every wide receiver's hurt Sutton Q2. Yeah, I mean, Sutton's questionable, but if he plays, then I like him. Font's fine. Like I said, that game sucks. It's just really, really low total, and I prefer to not focus on that. Monkas? Is that backwards for sack nom? I don't know, dude. Y'all are killing me. I have no idea what any of you guys are saying at all. Let's see. Let's jump into the rest of this, right? So we have the Chargers next. Talked a little bit about this game, but not a whole bunch. They do have like a pretty decent total here, I guess. And they do have a high pass rate, 72%. In the adjusted script, they are projected for 1.78 passing touchdowns, which is pretty good. We're pretty happy about that. They are only 2.5-point favorites, which, like I said, is kind of weird over Cleveland. I think they should be bigger favorites here. There's really only one route that you can go here. You just stack the Chargers and bring it back with OBJ. Or you stack the Chargers and bring it back with Rashad Higgins. But like this game, there's nothing exciting about this, really. You can't stack Cleveland because they're so run-heavy in the red zone that it just doesn't do anything for you in GPPs. So there's really only one route. The other route, of course, I think is secondary stacks, where you can go Mike Williams and OBJ. And I don't mind doing that. Next game, Carolina. Carolina is going up against... Wait, didn't I kind of like this game? Carolina is 3-point favorites over Philadelphia. That's right. Okay. Sam Darnold has the most rushing touchdowns in the league, which is dumb. I don't think that's going to continue. I don't think that that they're going to continue to call his number in the red zone. Maybe they do while Christian McCaffrey is sidelined. I don't know. But DJ Moore obviously has been incredible this year for them. They're facing Philadelphia, who really, like, they kind of spread the ball out. Dallas Goedert is useful. Zach Ertz is useful. But Devontae Smith is really the guy that you want. The problem with Carolina, like when we go over into the pass splits, Carolina just is not a team that wants to pass in the red zone. 43% pass rate in the red zone is really, really, really low. Second only to Cleveland, who's only 36% in the red zone. So that's really, really low. When we look at the Vegas baselines, Carolina, even though they are projected for like middling touchdowns, 2.74, it's only 1.2 passing touchdowns. So like, I'm just not in love with Carolina as a stack. On the other side of it with Philadelphia, I don't mind Jalen Hurts with Devontae Smith and bringing back DJ Moore. I'd be okay stacking that. You could even go with Jalen Hurts and Dallas Goedert and DJ Moore. I don't mind doing that. Let's see how much that actually costs. Let's go with Devontae Smith here. DJ Moore. So, yeah, the ceiling there is really, really good. Jalen Hurts' ceiling is 46. Devontae Smith, 24. DJ Moore is 36. What if we go with Dallas Goedert instead? That hurts things pretty bad. Dallas Goedert doesn't look all that good. So, yeah, I mean, you go with Devontae Smith. This would be what I would want to do here. I might do it, but probably not. I'd rather just probably fade that game. Arizona, I talked about Arizona a bit. Arizona and San Francisco don't project all that well. Ross Dwelley projects for a really, really high ceiling because of the routes that he's run thus far. And I do think that he probably is good enough at route running to take over for George Kittle, but not at pass blocking. So going back to Ganja Gamer, like, that's a good point about the pass blocking. And so I don't think that Ross Dwelley is going to be on the field as much as George Kittle was. And so his upside is a bit lower. But he does project for a really, really high ceiling, and I don't hate that at all, really. But the Arizona side, and like for stacking in this game, I just don't see it happening for me. The Arizona Cardinals don't project as well as they did, even though Kyler Murray projects exceptionally well, simply because they're spreading out the ball so much. Everybody's just kind of overpriced. Christian Kirk is projecting okay for the price. I don't hate that. San Francisco, though, like, maybe you go Deebo Samuel and bring it back Christian Kirk. Maybe you go Ross Dwelley and bring it back with, I don't know, Rondale Moore or AJ Green or something like that. But I'll talk more about that in the notes tomorrow. Right now, I'm not, like, super interested in it. Cincinnati, we already talked about with Green Bay. So I don't need to talk about them again. Let's take a break really quick and answer a couple questions. Let's see. It's like looking in the Matrix. You don't want to know how deep the rabbit hole goes. So I don't have any like serious tutorials on how everything works, but I am going to be talking more about it. I'll talk about the leverage metric at the end of this video. And I have gone into like one of the videos, and I'll link it on Twitter, which was explaining the NFL models going into the year. I'll link that. But most of it, man, like, all that you really need to know is this page, which is stacks, which, like, this is built algorithmically. This is, like, the highest upside and the best stack that you can possibly use from these teams. So you can start here, and then you can, like, have a comeback. You can use the roster construction tool to build this out and, like, find where the most upside is, which is what I've been doing on the stream. You can go over and look at the Vegas baselines. You can sort by passing touchdowns. It's going to tell you who has the most passing touchdown upside. So for stacks, this is really important. Explosive upside, I talk a little bit about this in the Discord, which is where I explain everything. But this just shows explosive rushing rates, which is plays of 15 plus yards over league average. This shows it for passing, and this shows it for passing combined between two teams. Pass efficiency, this is something that just shows what teams are better in the passing game and thus better to win the game. Pass splits shows how pass-heavy teams are. Red zone splits shows how often teams are passing and rushing in the red zone. And yeah, and then the range of outcomes is a range of outcomes, which actually you can see, like if you go into the models and hover over, you can see that it has little tooltips. So percent chance players top 5 finish on fantasy points overall on the slate, inclusive of every position, players projection on the slate, you know, all those things. So most of it is very self-explanatory. But if you ever have questions, you can always feel free to reach out, and I can explain more in depth when I am not doing a actual stream. See, proud that I got DJ Moore right the first time. Love it. And then, yeah, I do have ownership projections as well. So, like, if you go in, you can see that the ownership projections are right here. You know, you can sort them. See that Derrick Henry, I think he's probably going to be higher than that. But, yeah, got everything that you need, man. Everything that you could possibly need. Let's jump back into 2 things and wrap this up because I'm going over a little bit on time. So, next game, we already talked about Cincinnati and Green Bay. Tennessee, I don't have any interest in stacking Tennessee with Jacksonville. They both project pretty bad, right? I mean, they're both these kind of middling things. I don't mind a secondary stack of A.J. Brown with Marvin Jones. I don't mind a secondary stack of A.J. Brown and Laviska Shenault Jr., even though I think Laviska Shenault sucks. He was getting higher ADOT now that DJ Chark is injured. But the thing that we really need to care about here is Derrick Henry. It's a really, really good spot against a trash, just super duper dysfunctional Jacksonville team. And he's going to be super popular. I don't know if I'm going to use him yet. We'll see how things go. I likely will not use him because I like some really expensive stacks. But if I end up on some of the cheaper stacks, maybe on my New York Giants stack, which is pretty cheap, I may end up using him because I'm going to have enough leverage from other things that I just won't need to use him. Philadelphia, already talked about. Jacksonville, like I said, I'm not interested in stacking. Marvin Jones and A.J. Brown is fine. Pittsburgh, already talked about. Think it's a shitty game, think it's a shitty stack. New England, like I said, there's really not much to talk about here. The only thing that you can do is use Jacoby Myers or Brandon Cooks. I'm not stacking this game. I don't care about it. The running back situation is fucking foobar, so I don't care about that either for both teams. The only thing you can do is Jacoby Myers with a comeback of Brandon Cooks. That's it, point blank. New York Giants. I already talked about this, and I do really like the New York Giants stack. It is very, very likely to be one of the stacks that I run out tomorrow. Cleveland, talked about it. San Francisco, talked about it. I think we have talked about every single stack on the slate now. So that's cool. We got through the stacks. Freaking sweet. Yay. Do I think Henry targets keep it up? He's about to match his career high. Yes, I do. Yeah, it's an intentional thing that they have dedicated to this year. All right, let's wrap this up. Let's go over the leverage stuff. So really quick, let's talk about what LevX is. So LevX has two different purposes. In the overall ranges, it has one purpose, and in this position specific, it has another purpose. So we're just going to sort everything by top leverage for now, and then I'm not going to save it. But yeah, okay, so when we're looking at the overall ranges, what the leverage is measuring is it's measuring the percent chance that a player is going to be a top 10 overall scorer on the slate against their ownership, right? So it's a really, really easy formula. You can see it right here. It's just top 10 minus projected ownership. So what that's saying is if Tom Brady has a 56% chance to be a top 10 overall scorer on the slate, then his efficient ownership, you've heard me and Blender talk about that on Roto Grinders, his efficient ownership would be 56%. Because that means that he has a 56% chance of being able to be in a winning lineup on the slate. So if he's projected only 9% owned, then we get a lot of leverage in taking him because he should be way higher owned. If we look at negative leverage, right? So James Robinson, projected ownership on DraftKings. Why the fuck is he projected to be that high owned? I haven't even looked at this yet. But so he only has a 0.1% chance to be a top 10 overall scorer on the slate, but he's going to be 17% owned. So he's negative 16.97% leverage. That means that you need to make up. It doesn't mean you can't use him. It means that you're starting out in a hole. You're already starting out with a player that's over-owned by a significant amount. So you have to make that up somewhere, right? If you go over into the stacks and you look at the stacks tool, and you start with James Robinson, right? We already know that his leverage is negative 16, so we need something that is going to give us at least positive 16. So we could even offset that with Tom Brady, right? Here, we have a positive leverage average. We're fine here. But say that you were going to use Trey Lance, that's bad. We have a full negative leverage here. We didn't offset anything here. The goal of this and of the roster construction tool is to set up somewhere between 5 and 10% of an average positive LevX. It's just a way to ensure that you're building lineups that are positive expectation over the field. You just don't want to take on a lot of negative leverage because that means that you are overexposing yourself to too much negative leverage that is being chased by the field. You can't pass anyone with a lineup that is built with a whole bunch of these guys, right? you don't want to go James Robinson with Leonard Fournette and Chris Godwin, as well as like Jacoby Myers. Like that's super bad, and you're not going to come out of that hole. That's just chalky. It's just going to be bad. So yeah, I mean, a lot of that is like, that's basically how I look at LevX. And when I talk about LevX, a lot of the time I'm talking about in the regular ranges, not the overall ranges. And the difference is, when we're looking at LevX in the overall ranges, we're looking at percent chance of being top 10. So this is more inclusive of an entire lineup. When we're looking at LevX in the position specific, we're looking at how often they're going to either 5X or be a top finisher, or end up like being a very valuable piece of a lineup against the rest of the players that are like in their position. So Teddy Bridgewater actually has the most leverage on the slate, simply because he's going to be 0.3% owned, and he has a good chance of 5Xing that salary. The player that is the worst in this is Kyler Murray, because he's going to be relatively highly owned and he's too expensive, so he doesn't have a good chance of 5Xing that salary. If we go over into running back ranges, we have really, really good leverage on Aaron Jones because he's not going to be that highly owned. We have really negative leverage on DeAndre Swift because he doesn't have that good of a chance of paying himself off and being a winning running back on this slate. So, like, you guys get the gist. And that's basically what LevX is. Like, Terry McLaurin is the highest leverage wide receiver on the slate. The lowest wide receiver play on the slate is Chris Godwin. It doesn't mean that you can't use him. It just means that he needs to, like, have some offset. So that is talking over the leverage. I said that I would answer that question, and I really wanted to. So that is going to do it for me, because I need to go and take care of the baby, because I can hear him screaming. So yeah, anyway, if you guys need anything else, if you guys have any more questions, you can feel free to reach out to me on Twitter. All of the models are updated as of now with most recent information. They will be updated again, and I will have my notes out tomorrow on the slate or on the site for every game on the slate. Thank you guys for tuning in. Feel free to reach out if you have any questions. Go subscribe to PaterDFS.com, and I will talk to you later. See you later, guys.